Okay, so let's start with the introduction then. Um, Reza, go ahead.
Fantastic. Hi, Fred and Eric. Reza Palizeban. I'm the president of Aegis Innovators, a co-founder. And just a little bit of background, how I got into IAMCP. In 2016-17, I was part of a MSP that was really cloud focused and joined IMCP, got to learn a lot about Microsoft ecosystem. We were fully dedicated to that. And then in 2019, we found a new strategy really focused on zero trust methodology or the zero trust security framework with Microsoft. And we started Aegis Innovators, and we actually joined forces with another IMCP member at that time. And now today, 6 years later, we've grown a lot through this ecosystem, partnering with a lot of other IMCP partners, Microsoft partners, and bringing our security expertise and cloud security, cloud applications, all Microsoft based, and it's been a fantastic journey. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Reza. Eric, go ahead, please.
So I am Eric Klauss. I am the director of our Microsoft practice here at Neoteric 365. We're a Microsoft Cloud AI partner and also a Microsoft BizApps Dynamics partner, as well as Power Platform. My journey from IAMCP or in IAMCP started in 2010, almost 15 years ago. In March of 2010, my then boss, actually, I had just started with the company. My then boss got a cold call from a guy by the name of Justin Slagle, which is a name that's probably familiar to all of us. But Justin Slagle was the founding president of IAMCP SoCal, and he was calling people to invite them to an IAMCP meeting that was going to be coming up. My boss called me in to his office and said, "Hey, I think you should talk to this guy, and I think you should go to this meeting." And that was the beginning of my relationship in IMCP. I did in fact attend that next meeting. I signed up to become a member that day on the spot, and I've been a member for almost 15 years now. So it's been a long journey. Along the way, I became the president of IAMCP Southern California. I became the vice president of IAMCP Americas and did that for a few years. So it's been a long, long journey. And now I am back to being just a member.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric. If I could ask maybe both of you, if there is a part of your business that you can describe, which could be a core part of your business that that the customer can immediately look into and say, this is exactly what I need, and these are the type of guys I need to hire to get the job done. What would those sort of 4 or 5 core or strength part of your business will be?
Sure, I can start with that. And for what we do is very specialized in cybersecurity. And I mentioned zero trust framework. It's a specific methodology that really is separate, is different than what you find with a lot of, let's just call MSPs out there that are doing a lot of security. Because a lot of times with the MSP world, they're putting together different point solutions and putting together these beautiful solutions, but not always fully integrated. So for us, a core part of our business is to deploy and manage a end-to-end security program that is fully integrated. There's a lot of reporting. It helps with identity and access management. It helps with protecting endpoints, data, applications, network, infrastructure. So it covers the whole array of what we call the digital estate, and it's really based off of a methodology that is the U.S. Federal government has adopted. So the core part of our business is really bringing this very specific expertise and not only helping the customer understand the framework and the methodology of how it works, but really deploying it, implementing it. And then once it's in place, you have to maintain it and manage it. And so we've developed automations, we've developed our own intellectual property that's around this expertise, around this methodology. So that's really the core of what we're about, is really a specific approach to security that sets us apart from what you see with a typical, more of a generalist type of security program. And it's enterprise grade, but what we've done is we've taken an enterprise technology and make sure it's able to be deployed and understood, and bringing the cost down to small and medium-sized businesses, because enterprise-grade technology sometimes is just very, very difficult and complex, and we try to simplify it.
So what makes you different then would be from others is that you have put together a detailed sort of solutions in regards to security part of the business, where you make yourself differentiate from others. Is just and what is different about that? What is sort of what makes you different?
That's a great question. I mean, I think traditional security has locked things down in a way where sometimes it gets annoying for the people trying to get their job done, you know. And part of what's important about the way we do things and why it's important to have an integrated solution is you want people to get their job done in their normal workflow. You never want that a business is put into place for productivity, right? Businesses aren't created because everybody wants to not get their work done and be secure and lock everything down. So over the years, there's been this balance of how do we empower people to get their work done. So we deploy things like passwordless authentication. So passwordless means we have the ability to not even force a person to use a password. So using the biometric or using some other factor to log in to and make it seamless. Whereas, before people had to do, okay, I have to remember my password. I have to have this other device, and it becomes cumbersome, and they're constantly getting MFA. Well, thanks to Microsoft's obviously technology, but with our expertise, we've found ways to make logging into a system easier. Not only logging into things like Microsoft 365, but logging into all other applications that they have through something called single sign-on. So that's one example. There's so many other examples I can give you as well, where people aren't being locked out of SharePoint, and it's a more a smart system that kind of recognizes, okay, this person, they have this title, they can work in this workload, and they have access to the different components of the business because of the way we set things up. So zero trust is really about not allowing security to stop the normal workflow, normal work process.
Excellent. So you provide a seamless solution to your customers. Like you just said a great thing in regards to passwords, where they don't have to, look at the notebook for passwords and things like that. It's just one place to go and get things done.
Absolutely.
In
And
terms of
another
security.
thing I like to add to that is, from a security standpoint, it's not just about obviously making it seamless for the people to get their job done, but also for the management of an organization to run their business and manage security. So they don't have to deal with multiple vendors. We help consolidate it down, when we're working with Microsoft. So that's easy to manage. The other aspect of it is something we put automations in place. So one of the most important components is automated response. So a lot of companies spending a lot of money hiring security operations centers, a SOC, or it could be the third party, or they're hiring internally security staff to monitor security. But if you have an intelligence system, and Microsoft system leverages some machine learning and AI, you can have automated response. So when the system detects anomalies in that system, it can automatically block the user, or block that device from accessing network and things like that. So that's the other aspect of it.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. Eric, how about you?
So a great question. What we do is maybe not as easily as defined as what Reza does. What we do is help organizations um, in terms of solving business challenges through improved processes, through better data and analytics. Um, that can be in the form of simple things, automation of tasks in the organization. For example, just before coming on this call, I had a conversation with the HR department of a food and beverage organization, and we were talking about HR processes tend to be very repetitive. They involve multiple different systems. How can we make that more efficient for them? They're a small family-owned company. How do we make it more efficient for them to onboard, offboard employees, keep track of training and certifications, all of those different types of things? That's one side of our business. For more, I guess I'll say more advanced needs, the company may be looking at a replacement of a core operational system, like their core accounting system or their customer management system. And in those cases, we provide services and solutions around that. In some cases, it may be just purely being able to provide more information or better information, more access to information, and in more of a relevant way for executives and leaders within the organization. So just the other day, I was talking to a client, and I'll say they are a franchise business. One of the challenges that they have is providing information to their franchisees. Um, and so giving those franchisees simple to understand data that is, very visual, very straightforward for them to be able to look at and to be able to absorb is a real challenge for them. And so we're actually in the proof of concept stage with that particular client. But they've got about 200 franchisees, and this is a major challenge for them. So a wide range of different types of solutions and services, but at the end of the day, I think what we do is provide better data or more simplified processes for our clients.
Would you say, Eric, that I could, if I were to call you sort of big one-stop shop in terms of what you just mentioned, rather than me hiring you to do something here and then have to hire somebody else to do something else? Or would you be able to sort of look at the issues I have and bring in partners to help to get the job done for the customer?
Well, yes and no. So that's a great question, Fred. I think the first answer to that would be yes, we're a one-stop shop to be able to do what we do well, but there's an element to that. For example, we touched on data just a moment ago, and so anytime you're dealing with a company's data, you have to factor in compliance and security. We don't do the data and security and compliance side of that. So that's where I partner with Reza, and we bring in the Aegis team to be able to supply that security and compliance side of the conversation, so that if that client, depending upon what they're doing and how they're doing things today, they have needs around governance, data governance, and security, and I'll say almost every client does, then that's where I would, quickly send Reza a quick Teams note or send him an email and say, "Hey, I need you to jump on a call with me with this client because we've got this particular challenge. Here's what they're doing today." And see how you can help them. And this is exactly how we've partnered in the past. Just one of many ways that we've partnered in the past,
Sure.
but certainly that's a good example of one type of partnering.
So you just answered my next question that I was going to ask, which was what specific challenge or opportunity led you to collaborate? So this actually was a situation where you had to collaborate with Reza at Aegis and get the job done for the customer.
Yeah, and as I said, that's just one. I mean, there have been other opportunities in the past. I think one of the first ones that we worked on together goes back now probably more than 5 years ago,
5 years.
probably 7 or 8 years ago. I had a client that needed some help with Microsoft Azure. They were a large company. They were at that time a $3 billion company, so not a small company by any stretch of the imagination. But they had very specific things that they were wanting to be able to do in Azure, and their own internal team did not know how to do it. And so I reached out to Reza and said, "Hey, can you guys do this?" And Reza said, "Yes." And so similarly, we brought Reza and the Aegis team in. They worked with that client and helped them remediate the situation that the client was dealing with. And so um, that's where, from that side of the fence, I guess I'll say is we partner extensively with Reza and other MSP or SSSP security services partners extensively because it's the area that we don't do. It's part of what we don't do. We don't provide those managed services. We don't provide the security services. We're good at what we do, and we don't do those other things. So we partner with other organizations that can deliver those other types of services like Reza and Aegis does.
Exactly. Reza, let me ask you this. Which Microsoft technologies or solutions played a key role in your collaboration?
Well, Eric mentioned a couple of them, but you think about the Microsoft 365 platform and Azure, those were key, but and those are areas we have a lot of expertise and we have cross expertise. Obviously, with security, a lot of it is centered around Microsoft 365 for, where a lot of the data resides, a lot of the applications reside in Azure. So we also have to protect, different cloud workloads, applications, obviously protecting the data and the identity and access. Really, M365 is kind of sits on Azure in a way. They're two different platforms, but there's some integration between them of like how you log into a system. So we have that expertise there, but a lot of times I work with Eric on things like Dynamics. We have customers that need help with Dynamics 365. They need help with AI. They need help with automations and things on the Power Platform. So those are the areas where we go to Eric and his team. One of the first customers we worked with, we had a company that had a very, very fancy technology around on 3D printers. And they were going through they were recently acquired by a big global conglomerate, and they had a massive deployment they were doing, trying to take their own applications and integrate them with Dynamics 365. And we brought Eric and his team in, and they did a fantastic job. This was good 5 years ago as well. And so that was another one of the areas where we worked in together where we didn't have that expertise.
Eric, how about you? What sort of a key role in collaboration in terms of Microsoft technology and solutions?
Well, I'll share maybe a more recent story for folks because more recently, we got into the AI and Copilot space. And we did that in 2023, 2024. That was kind of a deliberate, intentional move along those lines. But one area that we are really not focused on is, for example, Copilot for Microsoft 365. Now, Reza and the Aegis team were doing webinars and doing a series of webinar events focused on Copilot for Microsoft 365. And they had their own marketing efforts and activities that were ongoing. But where we found an opportunity to partner is at Neoteric 365. We have an extensive marketing and sales team, especially around, I'll say, cold calling and telemarketing service. And so what we were able to do is to basically do some lead gen and recruit people to attend the Aegis webinars that Reza and the team were already doing. And so driving some folks from our side into attending their events. Now, the goal for us was to hopefully find that those clients would, who have an interest in Copilot for Microsoft 365, might then have interest in other Copilot solutions or other AI solutions. And that way it becomes, it comes full circle, if you will, and comes back as a lead for us at some point as well. But originally, that was the baseline of it. Was last year we started doing these activities in joint partnership with the Aegis, and we've continued to do them now for about 6 months, I guess.
Excellent, excellent. The next question I have, which I'm going to I have a story about it too, which it would be great if I can get your input on that. The question is, what were some of the biggest challenges you encountered while working together? How did you navigate them? So one of the things that I encountered, a good partner of mine came to me and said, I have a bid from an estate agency, and they want me to price it. And of course, it's a bid, so you don't know who is going to actually be awarded. So we had to be very careful as far as how we're going to price it and how we're going to manage the project. We looked at it, and as we went through the whole bid, at the end, the project was saying, okay, here's what we need to do, but our budget cannot exceed $80,000, for example. We looked at it, it was terabyte of data, huge project. It had to do stuff with SharePoint and things like that. And my partner came to me and said, Fred, there is no way I can do this with, less than $80,000. So we start thinking and said, well, maybe they already have someone in mind who is probably offshore, who can get this done for less than what we can price it for. So is this some of the challenges you're facing as well in regards to pricing something that you are competing against offshore type companies that a lot less expensive than what we can do here? What are your thoughts, Reza?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about kind of a slightly different component of a challenge we overcame, but I think Eric was going to definitely have a good response for the offshore element because we brought him into some deals and the customer wanted certain pricing, and Eric had the capability of either using onshore versus offshore and offering the client, and he may remember those details a little bit better than me, but going back to Eric's example of the collaboration we recently had on Copilot and this whole how do we work together, we're putting on these webinars and, again, we're a modern work and security type organization. So we're promoting modern work, like I was talking about earlier with Zero Trust. We all always believe that productivity leads the way. So we're promoting AI and we're promoting a secure AI adoption. So part of the whole webinar story is how do we come together and bring people together to give them a vision of what is the future of understanding. And before you get a sale, there's a lot of understanding that has to happen as Microsoft has all these different Copilot products, and that gets confusing. So Eric is involved and his team is involved in Copilot, and so are we. So a customer could be thinking, how are these people? Are they competitors? How are they working together? And so what ended up happening is we're obviously we're kind of leading the horse to water, right? Making them understand you need to have security first. you need to have a basic component of AI understanding before you get to the more complex versions. So Aegis's role in this whole story, in this whole part, this complex partnership is, you know, create the platform, begin the education, start with security, start with the out of box versions of this AI, and then bring Eric's team in, who has the expertise with the automations and working with data and manipulating it in a way that, when I say manipulating data, meaning honestly, what I'm meaning is customizing solutions that are tied to a company's workflow and how they do business, very strategic, and getting into the other complex co-pilots as well. And what we found is that there was a lot. So this was more of a sales and marketing kind of problem to overcome, was that a lot of these leads were coming in, and Aegis was, the front company that did the webinars, had the infrastructure in place, but our ability to kind of follow up on these leads and organize them were limited. But Eric's firm had that capability. They had a more robust lead gen system and a more robust SDR system that could follow up. So then we started working on, and we've been working on, where we're leveraging some of their resources. So in this whole sales and marketing effort, there was an opportunity where we needed help, and Eric's firm actually had the infrastructure in place. So instead of me having to reinvent the wheel, going out and finding another system, we were able to partner within that, so that hopefully we're able to not only generate more leads, more people coming to the webinars, but how we execute afterwards. We've gotten into a partnership on how do we do that, and make sure that as the appropriate leads come in, that they're wanting the security services, or they're wanting the Copilot 365 services are coming through Aegis, and the ones that are looking to do to higher level of AI, and we'll bring them over to Eric's team. So that's an example of a challenge we've come through in just this recent collaboration.
That's great. I think, Eric, you and I should have a offline conversation in regards to your lead gen and SDR, but that's great to know that you were able to help in this situation. And what would you say about this, Eric, in regards to offshore, onshore type sort of pricing and the challenges here?
Yeah, so maybe I'll hit on a couple of things there. So I have over those 15 years of being part of IAMCP, I have moved through a number of different roles. I spent 5 years running my own business, and I had a team of onshore resources. Today at Neoteric 365, I have a mix of onshore and offshore resources that we utilize. And so I guess I'll say that having the offshore resources does give me flexibility to come up with a pricing strategy that can be more attractive to clients that are price sensitive and who don't have a requirement for onshore resources.
Yeah.
Some industries, some industries are very regulated, and so you can't use offshore resources for those types of organizations. But for a lot of organizations, and especially in the SMB market space, they tend to be very, very price sensitive, and they're much more concerned about a budget than they are concerned about where those resources are necessarily located and where they're coming from. And so that gives us a flexibility and I'll say maybe a competitive advantage compared to some other partners, including my past self, who strictly had onshore resources. That said, I think, especially in the world that we're in today, for any partner, having the ability to leverage offshore or nearshore resources is such a almost a requirement in today's market. It's really hard to be price competitive in today's world when you don't have some type of nearshore or offshore option because so many, especially big companies, that's one of the challenges for all of us in this space is we've seen the big companies who used to be focused on the enterprise customers almost exclusively. And now they're coming down into the mid market and they're playing in that space and they're competing against many of us who historically would never have seen them as a competitor. And they have, thousands of offshore resources, and they can, work at very, very low costs. And so, I think that's one of the challenges for virtually every partner is how do you find that and how do you adapt your business to that? Because it's not an easy thing to do. If you have worked exclusively with onshore resources, um, you probably have a team that you're very comfortable with,
Yeah.
and now you're going to introduce a little bit of chaos, if you will, into that. And you as a as a leader of your organization, as a business owner, potentially, one of the things that's probably most important to you, as it was to me when I ran my business, is the quality of the service that we deliver. Right. I'll say one of my points of pride was for the 5 years that we ran our business. Um, I never had one single failed project, and I'll just say it this way. And the companies that I worked for prior to running my own business, that was not the case. So that was something that was incredibly important to me was that we delivered successful projects and our clients were happy, beyond happy even, with the services that we delivered and the quality of the resources that we used. And so now when you start to bring in that offshore element, you still want to maintain that level of delivery quality, and that's a balancing act that you have to find.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a little bit of a challenge for a lot of organizations, but I think it's a challenge for everybody in today's market.
Exactly. And I always say, even in the past, even now, to my clients, is let's not lose the deal because we are going to have lesser margin than what we expected. Everything is better than zero. So negotiating with the offshore team is better to win the deal rather than losing a deal and not getting the project done. We may have to go a little lower on our margin, but at least we got the deal and we brought an offshore team to get it done. So uh, the next question I have is, were were there any unexpected roadblocks, and how did you adapt?
Expected
I guess
roadblock.
the pricing could be one of them, but yeah, there's a lot of challenges, right? And how do you adapt to those?
But we had one roadblock where the project that I mentioned earlier with the 3D printing company, where the previous owner of that business who had sold to the big conglomerate got terminated all of a sudden, and he was our point of contact, and everything flowed through him. And so now that we've both Eric's team and our team lost our main point of contact, we had to figure out how to navigate the new organization and work with somebody. Instead of somebody here in Carlsbad, California, we're dealing with somebody in London, England. And these are things that just happen in a relationship, and you do your best with them. You can't. One thing in business is you only focus on what you can control. And from my perspective, Eric's team handled it fantastic. They developed a new relationship. It opened up some opportunities with, instead of the smaller local organization that had 200 people, then it opened up opportunities with a 10,000 employee organization that's multinational and harder to navigate, of course, but sometimes obstacles happen and you just have to do your best. And working with a person like Eric and the team that he has is like, they can work with small businesses, medium businesses, and they know how to work with an enterprise. So for me, that was big in having a partner that is has so capable of working with whatever type of organization. And that's important to our business because we are using enterprise grade technology. We have the flexibility to work with big companies, small companies, and I need to have partners that understand the various ecosystems. So that's one example that came to mind, and we were able to overcome it, and we were able to extend the project and get renewals and work through everything. Took longer, but we got it done. So I don't know, Eric, if you have any other challenges that you can think of, but that's the one that really comes to my mind.
Can't think
Good.
of other challenges. That was a great example. But I guess what I would say is that maybe there are fewer challenges when you have the right relationship also. I have a
Mm.
tremendous amount of trust with Reza. It's bidirectional, I think. It's always has been. We trust each other. The business has operated between us very, very, I'll say, effectively. Um, Part of that is that understand what your role in the relationship is. And we've been, both of us have been on both sides of the relationship, either the partner who has brought the deal to the table and has looked for services from the other. We've both been on both sides of that relationship. And what's important about that is to understand if you're the subcontractor, make sure if there are contract questions, if there are new opportunities, that you're surfacing those back to the primary partner, right? The prime contractor, if you will. Um, it's not your role and it's not your customer. And even if the customer, says, well, hey, gosh, we could do business with you guys. Uh, if the relationship originated with Reza, I'm going to close that loop and I'm going to bring that client back. I'm going to tell that client, no, that's okay. We'll work it through with the Aegis team. They're your prime contractor. They're your partner, and your contract resides with them. If you have, if we have a phase 2, phase 3, whatever is going to go on, it'll go on, on their contract terms. We never ever want to cross that line, and if I'm being, blunt about it, it's because my relationship with Reza is worth more to me than one client. It's been a relationship that's been ongoing for too many years now, and I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna jeopardize that over a few $1,000s of a single client project. It's just not worth it. My relationship with Reza is also a personal relationship. I consider him a friend. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna overturn that just for the sake of a few dollars. So I think, part of this also comes down to just, nuts and bolts of a good relationship and a good partnership.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, we have.
those
Go
are
ahead.
my sentiments too. I just want to get an opportunity to respond to that because, Eric has become like a brother to me. I mean, the whole IMCP, I think the beauty of it is the friend. It's more than just business, and partnering is key, but it's meeting those people who you can treat as family, who become, your good friends, who you develop a deeper relationship. And a lot of the things that Eric was talking about are value driven, principle driven, right? And we also share the love for technology and this particular ecosystem, right? With Microsoft being at the center of it. And we're tech enthusiasts. So when we see each other, we're talking about things that are happening in the industry or talking about the beauty of some of the new technological advancements, and we connect that way. But then when it's time to do business, we know what our roles are, and we stay in our lane. And as you would for any family member, you look out for each other. So if there's an opportunity that could benefit Eric, and his team, if I see it, I'm going to share it with him. And then that becomes a mutual thing. And he does the same thing back. And if there is a challenge that comes up, and like luckily we haven't faced too many challenges, then we already have a way of working through them together because of that mutual trust, respect, and really knowing the lanes, as Eric described it really well.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, guys. We got a couple of minutes, and you know, the other thing, the roadblock could be not on your end, but on the customer end too. The timing may have changed. The financial may have changed. You know, there's a lot of components that you don't have any, you know, you don't have any access to, where the customer things have changed. So that's another roadblock that becomes a challenge, where how do you overcome that? So I think we are done. We have a lot to go, but I think this was great. Thank you so much, Reza and Eric.
Thank you, Fred, and thank you for
Thanks,
all you're
Fred.
doing in our community, bringing partners together. We really appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you.